Welcome to How Now, the podcast where we talk about how to live in the now. And here's your host, Kim Martin-Raymond.
Peace, love, and light, and welcome to this edition of the How Now podcast, where we talk about how to live in the now. I am your host, Kim Martin-Raymond, and I'm a minister, spiritual life coach, author, and founder of Redefining You LLC, where I help my clients to realign themselves, mind, body, and spirit. And welcome to the show. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to the How Now podcast. Please be sure to go to my website, www.hownowpodcast.com. Click on your favorite podcast platform and be sure to like, follow, share, and subscribe. You can also scroll to the bottom of the page and it'll take you to the banner for this week's show. And when you click on that banner, it will take you to the How Now YouTube channel where you can follow my playlists like Tuesday, or find out about my wellness journey. And you can like, follow, share, and subscribe there as well and catch up on some shows that you may have missed. So again, that's www.hownowpodcast.com. Enjoy the show. So we're going to get into tonight's show where I'm going to be talking about my wellness journey. I started my wellness journey back in September of 2021. I had gotten to a place in my life around the age of 50 where I just was tired of feeling sick and tired all the time. So that's kind of how it started. I was doing some mission work in Haiti, which I've been doing for a couple of years. And this particular time in August of 2021, when I came back from my trip to Haiti, I was not feeling well. I felt in the worst shape that I had felt in my entire life. I had come back, I had gone back to work and was falling asleep at the wheel when I was driving home. And I just no longer felt safe. I no longer felt a sense of wellness. And so I got to a station where I was just like, enough is enough. I'm tired of being sick and tired. So what I decided to do was, I said, I need to do something different. Now, let me rewind a little bit because at 50 in 2020, shortly after the pandemic had started, I had been working out, had been, exercising and eating a little better. And my goal for my 50th birthday was to be under 200 pounds. Now, I had not been under 200 pounds since the age of 17. And so it's been a number of years that I've been overweight and I've battled with my weight back and forth since then. And so I decided to, work out, get on the eating plan, and see if I could get under 200 pounds by the time I turn 50. And I actually accomplished that goal. So back in 2020, I had reached 198 pounds. So I was thrilled over the moon because I was like, yes, now I'm finally, under 200 pounds. I'm in Wonderland, like people are saying, when they get under 200 pounds, I'm in Wonderland. I'm finally here. It was a space that I had not been in a long time. And so I was like, okay, I'm here. I've done it. The next day, my weight escalated and I went back up to over 200 pounds. And I was like, oh, okay, but still, I'm going to, be able to maintain this. And so, I started to continue a little bit on my journey. And of course, like I said, the pandemic had hit 2 months prior. And so, the things that I was doing prior to, losing the weight, which was, doing some social events. There's a local medical center, and I was able to go twice a week and go and work out there. So that way I had a little bit of community, I had a little bit of support, I had a little bit of accountability, and had all of those things in place. And so I was excited about, continuing on in that vein. But of course, when the pandemic hit, a lot of places closed down. So I lost that support system. I lost that ability to go and to be in community with other people who were, trying to establish their wellness journey. And so that I took a hit there. Then, you're confined to your home, and that became an issue as well. I started, snacking because, I was stressing because I was, having to be home and to be confined. And and that began to take a toll. So, the pounds started creeping back on again. And I just did not feel supported. My family tried to help, and I tried to, when I could go out, get, food that, was going to, continue with the lifestyle that I was trying to create. And as many others, did during the COVID thing. You had a lot of people that were saying that they had, gained COVID pounds, and I fell into that category too. I started getting back into, poor eating and trying to find fast food. And even though I was home and you would think that I would have opportunities to eat better because I couldn't eat out, no, I was getting things delivered just like everybody else. And I kind of fell off. And I didn't really, even though I had lost the weight and I was exercising and I was trying to eat properly, I still didn't have enough control, enough of an understanding of what my body was doing. And so as the weight started, packing back on, I had gained almost 40 pounds. And so, you know, by the time I had gotten back from my trip, like I said, to Haiti, I had almost touched 250 pounds. And I just did not feel well and felt defeated because I was so close to my goal and was doing well, and I just fell off. And I didn't understand that when I ate poorly, that if I just got back on the horse and kept going, I would have seen the pounds that I had gained almost overnight, it seemed. I would have seen that weight fall back off again. But I didn't understand my body. I didn't understand the dynamics of what happened when I put food in my mouth and the process that it went through. And so I did myself a disservice. I tried to do it on my own, but I needed assistance. And so, like I said, fast forward back to August of 2021, I was coming back from Haiti and just was not feeling good and was concerned about my health. And I noticed that my blood sugar had gone back up. I had gotten in control of my diabetes. I have type 2 diabetes. I had gotten in control of my diabetes. I had gotten my A1C down to 5.9. And so I was excited about that because that's an excellent number for a person who is diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. So I had it in control. I was not taking any medication at the time. Like I said, I just was not feeling well. So my first course of action was to make an appointment with my primary physician. And when I went in and I got tested, and they tested my A1C and did a physical and everything else like that. I had touched at that point, I think I was 245 pounds. And when they did my A1C, that number had reached 12. Now, your A1C, when it goes over 13, you have to start taking insulin. And that kind of explained the lethargy that I had. I was feeling lethargic. I was not feeling, my best. I was just sleepy all the time. I just could not seem to get it together. And during the middle of the day, I would be crashing. I'd get into work at 8:30. By 2 o'clock, I could barely keep my eyes open. So, that kind of explains some things. And so my doctor me back on metformin. I was not pleased about having to be back on medication after, having it under control for some time, but I had to go back and, you know, start with the medication again. And so, we talked about meal planning and just said, we need to do something different. And in the interim, while I was, trying to figure out what my next course of action was going to be, and the first thing that she said was, let's try to see if, you can use one of the apps and let's kind of start, monitoring what you eat so we can see, where the discrepancies are and how many calories you should be taking in and where you are. And so, that kind of worked for me because I'm a note taker. I'm a checklist person. And so, to be able to log things was not terribly difficult for me to do. So I said, you know what, why not give it a shot? Because and I was familiar with the app My Fitness Pal. I had used it in the past when I was working through trying to lose weight initially before my 50th birthday and was kind of monitoring my intake at that point before I fell completely off. And so I started with going back on my Fitness Pal and starting to see what I was eating. And, I think like some people do, you get to a place where, you're like, well, I'm going to hardly eat anything. I'm going to starve myself, which is never good. And that's what I was doing. I was like, well, I'm going to eat minimal, I'm not going to eat as much. But what was happening, one thing that I didn't like to see, and if you're familiar with my Fitness Pal, you would know, uh, if you don't eat enough calories based on your height and weight that you input into the app, what happens is you'll see like these red letters saying you didn't eat enough calories today. So my goal was not to eat so little that I would see that red because I didn't like to see that red because I was like getting an F on the paper. And if you're a educated, schooly kind of person like I was, I'm not trying to see no Fs. I'm not trying to fail. And so uh, I didn't like to see that red. So I always try to make sure that I ate enough calories to be within my, within the range that I was supposed to eat as far as calories were concerned. And so I had started, documenting what I was eating again, making sure I didn't see that red, and still didn't have a game plan, but started back with exercising. Now, uh, I started having some tingling sensation in my legs, not just one leg, in both of my legs. And so I mentioned that to my primary physician, and she had me go to a pain specialist. And so I went to that appointment. They did a lumbar and thoracic MRI of my lower body to try to figure out where this pain or where this pins and needles kind of sensation was coming from. Because as I said, it was in both legs. And so we were trying to figure out if it was sciatica, because, usually that goes down one leg, but I was having that sensation in both legs. And like I just said, my legs kept feeling like they're falling asleep. And so we went, did the MRIs, and it came back that I had spinal stenosis. And that's kind of where there's a pinched nerve in your back. And what it does when that nerve pinches down both sides of your legs, you feel almost a pins and needles falling asleep kind of sensation in the backs of your legs. And what happens is over time, as that nerve is pinching, it begins to become a little bit more uncomfortable and painful, almost to the point where you don't feel sensation in your legs. Now, I had never fallen or collapsed, but I felt like if I keep walking and it keeps pinching like this, or I keep getting that sensation, I'm going to not feel my legs and I'm going to fall. So, I went to physical therapy for a couple of sessions. They gave me a few exercises to do. They did a test because they wanted to see how long I could go because I said, when I was exercising, I said I would get on the treadmill when I was, first started exercising and had gotten to my goal weight that first time of getting under 200 pounds. I was running on a treadmill for 45 minutes. I got on the treadmill and after 8 minutes, I started feeling that sensation in my legs again. And they were like, okay, no more walking on the treadmill for you because they said when you get to a place of pain like that, your body goes into a protection mode and it almost like has little, how do I explain it? Little beads of water that kind of go around that area where the pain is. And so it's going because it's a means of protecting your body. And so it's going to cause you to retain water because it's trying to protect that area that is experiencing the pain. So the doctor told me, he says, when you get to that point of feeling that pain, if you're doing exercise, stop immediately because all you're going to do is cause, that water to retain around that area, and you're going to experience some swelling in that area. And so you don't want to do that. You want to be able to allow the muscles to heal. Just like when you do exercise and you've done a lot and they tell you to, give yourself a day of rest, so that way you're not, your muscles have time to repair. Give them time to repair. And so that was a difficult hit for me because, I wanted to be able to exercise. I wanted to be able to get on this path to feeling well again, being able to walk and run the way I did. And now here it is, I'm being told that my blood sugar is out of control. And then I'm being told that I have spinal stenosis. And so now I can't exercise in the manner in which I wanted to. So I was like, what am I supposed to do for exercise? And so when I went to the physical therapist, they had me on a machine which was called a recumbent elliptical bike. And I'll make sure that I put a link for that in when the show airs. But um what I did was that it was like an upright elliptical, where you're moving your arms and your legs, and it's a fluid motion. It's not more pedaling up and down, but it's more of that fluid kind of skating kind of motion, and or skiing kind of motion. And so, that machine, they said it was easy on your joints. I was able to be in a seated position, and so. Uh, that I when I got on the bike, I was like, okay, this is something that you know I want to be able to experience at home. And so I started looking up elliptical recumbent bikes, and they started in the thousands. And those who know me know that my cheapness was not going to allow me at all to pay $4,000 to $5,000 for an elliptical recumbent bike. So I started, you know, when in doubt, and go to Amazon. Okay, so Prime Girl, I was like, let me go and see what they have on Amazon. And I was reading some of the reviews, and I was a little concerned about that because I was like, gosh, they were talking about the pedal would break, or the flywheel. There would be issues with that. And so I was like, okay, can't lowball this either. I've got to find something middle of the road. And so there is a company called Teeter, and they had one that was a little bit more manageable. They had a little bit of a payment plan. And so I said, okay, score, here we go. So I wanted to be able to bring something into my home because I knew that there was going to be a limit to the amount of physical therapy I was going to be able to get. And I wanted something that I could have at home that was going to replace my treadmill. I'm being told, I can't run on a treadmill 45 minutes like I was used to. And if I felt any type of pain, I would just push through it. And I was doing myself a disservice. I was causing more damage than anything else. So what I decided to do was, get this elliptical recumbent bike, and I brought it into my home. And I said, at least I can still get some movement. I can sit. It's easy on my knees and on my arms, and I'm getting that fluid motion going. So, I said, okay, I need to bring in a tool that's going to help me, something that I can go to and not just keep things in my home that I can't use. I didn't want my treadmill to become a place to hang clothes. And that's usually what happens. So I you know, put the treadmill to the side, and I, began to look at the elliptical runner. So here it was. I was tracking my food. Still didn't have a plan for that, tracking my food. And now I had at least this elliptical runner, it's elliptical recumbent bike that I could ride. And that was going to, at least be two of the tools that I could use. Okay. So the one thing that I had been learning in this process, and of course now it's hindsight, now I can see, is, when we're attempting to do something different, we have to make sure that we have the tools that we need in order to do what it is that we're seeking to do to help us to meet that goal. And that was something that I've learned in this process, and it spilled over into other things because my mantra this year, especially for the show, has been about toolboxes and being able to prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually for the things that happen in our lives and making sure that we have the proper tools to address those things. And so, two tools that I was able to put in my physical toolbox at that point was the My Fitness Pal, so I can track my food, so I could see where I was, if I needed to see where I was to know where I was going. And then I wanted to also be able to still have movement. And if they were telling me that with this diagnosis of spinal stenosis, they wanted to put me on medication. They were talking about, at some point putting an epidural, like a long needle in my back that would release the nerve endings that would, allow me to experience some relief. But they were saying that with that there was a possibility that it would work or it wouldn't work. And, I checked into it with my insurance and it was going to be almost, I think my copay was going to be something like $2,000. So I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute. I said, you mean to tell me that you want me to pay you $2,000 to stick a needle in my back and it may or may not work? And if it does work, it may only last for 6 months and then I have to do that twice a year. I was like, you know what? That's a hard no for me. So what's the other option? And so they were like, well, the other option is weight loss. And so I was like, okay. So another, then in my toolbox with the whys, why am I doing this? I need to do this because I'm not feeling sense of wellness. I'm feeling lethargic. So I'm not able to do the things that I need to do for myself and for my family. And and then, like I said, I just don't, I want to feel better. I want to get back in better health. I want my A1C to go down because I don't want to have to take insulin. And I don't want to have a needle put in my back or have to go into surgery for the things that I'm putting in my mouth. So those became my whys. Why am I doing this? And I wanted to, like I said, be there for my family. I have a granddaughter. I wanted to be there for my family. So those things became my whys. So those been in my toolbox too, because when you're feeling broken or when you're feeling discouraged, you want to go back to why you're doing this in the first place. You don't want to feel like you're doing it for no reason. You want to have a rationale behind why you're doing what you're doing. Well, my whys went into that toolbox too. And so, the biggest thing, the those things that I put into my toolbox was, okay, my eating. You know, how am I going to work this out? Okay. And that's where another kind of layer came in with the whole process of this feeling lethargic and things of that nature. I travel for work. So that was a challenge as well because when I travel with a coworker. We're having to eat our meals out together. And, I didn't feel like I was in control of that. We go to a restaurant and we eat. So it wasn't like I was able to prepare those meals. Those meals were being prepared for me. And I wasn't in the back making sure that they weren't putting too much butter or that they weren't drowning everything in sauces and things like that. So I didn't have control over that. So while I was still trying to figure that part out, I can put into the My Fitness Pal things that I was eating, and I could see that some of the things that I was eating were high in fat. I didn't know anything about protein or anything else like that. I just knew, okay, I'm just supposed to eat salads and I just need to make sure that I'm under this amount of calories for the day. And that was all that I knew. I didn't hadn't done the research or the homework. I just figured eat better, exercise, and I'll be fine. But there was so much more to it than just that. And so um while I was trying to figure it out and just kind of going through the motions, I lost a couple of pounds because, when you go into a caloric deficit, when you start doing, movement, then, things start, getting where they need to go. But then, before I go a little further, let's just talk about menopause because I was in perimenopause at the time too. I started going to perimenopause right at about 51. So I would have 4 months with no cycle, and then I'd have a month with a cycle. 4 months, then 1 month. And that went on for about 2 years. And so I was just like, okay, so my body is all out of whack. Everything is out of whack. I didn't take that into consideration either. So that was just another factor in this whole bag of funk or whatever that was going on with my body. So I just knew that things were out of whack, but I knew that I needed to figure out how to eat better as well because they tell you you can't exercise your way into good health. It wasn't just about the physical, it had to be about what I was putting in my mouth because that's what was causing that my blood sugar to go up, you know, and was causing that weight to come on. That was affecting my spine and causing that nerve to pinch. And so I needed to figure some things out. And so, me being a person who, was working on my doctorate and learned about the art of researching, I was like, I need to start doing my homework. I need to start doing more. We listen to our physicians and, we think about coaches and other things like that. And I just said, okay, I need to do something different because I'm able to do things on the short term, but I need to figure out how to make this a long-term effect. Realized that it wasn't just a means to an end. I needed this to be a lifestyle change for me. And so I needed to know what do I need to do to make this a lifestyle change and not just something temporary. Okay, because I don't want to go back to that feeling of lethargy. I don't want to go back to that feeling of 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 pain in my body, of just not feeling again that sense of wellness. And I didn't want to wait until an emergent situation happened, health emergency, a stroke, or anything like that. I didn't want any of those things to happen as a result of what I was putting in my mouth. And so I needed to figure some things out. So while I was trying to figure it out, I was reconnected with a friend of mine who I met at an event, um, a networking event years ago. And she happened to reach out to me and she was just like, "Hey, Kim, how are you doing? What's going on?" And just, hey, how you doing? I remembered her. And and she was like, "Well, I'm just reaching out to ask you, how are you feeling with regards to your health?" And I was like, "Okay, guy. How does she know?" I was like, and why would she come and ask me that particular question? And so I was like, "Huh, funny you should ask." I was like, I have been feeling bad. I've been, my A1C is up. I'm trying to get my blood sugar in control. I just found out I have spinal stenosis. I was like, all these things going on. And I'm really trying to, you know, figure out what I need to do with regards to my eating. I've started tracking what my intake is, but I don't really have control over what's going on. I was like, and I travel, so everything is just out of whack. I can travel for weeks out of a month, and I just don't feel like I'm in control. And she was like, I have the perfect solution for you. And she introduced me to Optavia. And I was like, okay, well, what is Optavia? And she told me it was, these bars that you eat and these other supplements that you eat. And she was like, they're portable. So, you talk about you travel. And so why don't you try to hop on here and hop on this program, and you can get a box of food that's prepackaged and you can take it with you when you go on your business trips and you'll be able to lose weight. And she told me how she had lost weight and had, told me about the program. And I went to go and look about it. And, I was like, you know what? This may work. And then when she told me the cost, I was like, okay, no, thank you. Because it was something like almost $350, $400 a month for a box of this packaged food. And, it was going to help. And I said, at first I said no, because my cheapness would not allow me to to you know, pay that much. I was like, there's no way I'm paying that. And then I had to say, okay, Kim, but you got to do something. So I was like, okay. let me do the calculations on this. And when I started looking at how much I spent for takeout and breakfast and lunch and dinner and all of these other things, I realized that I was paying over that a month in takeout and food that I bought alone. And so I said, you know what, Kim, if I can invest that kind of money in eating out like that, why can't I invest it in this box of food that's going to take me to the next level in my health? So I called her back and I said, hey, you know what? I crunched the numbers and I realized that, wow, I am not uh, where I need to be. I am spending that much or more in food that I'm eating out with. And so let's go ahead and give it a try. And so I started the Optavia program. Uh, I started it on Labor Day. And so that was the beginning of my wellness journey, September 2nd. Yeah, September 2nd of 2021. 21. I think. Yes, 21. And so I started with the Optavia program, and fast forward a year later, I had lost 50 pounds, and I was in a place that I had never been ever. And well, let me not say ever. I had not been at that weight almost. I think at that point I was at 180 pounds. I had not been there since I was in middle school. I had gone from a size 22 in clothing to a size 16, and I was just stunned. My clothes wouldn't fit. I'm a trainer, so I stand in front of people and I just thought, oh, I'll just put a belt on everything. My shoes started were too big, my clothes were too big, my rings were falling off my fingers. I was like, what is happening? And I didn't really know where I was going because I hadn't set a goal weight. But I was like, okay, 50 pounds is fantastic. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm here. And I didn't know what to do once I got there. So that's something that's important in this process as well. When you set a goal, try to set a goal for where you want to go. And then once you get there, what is the maintenance going to look like for that? Or what's the cost going to look like for that? And that was something that I did not consider. Okay. Because now here it was, I done lost 50 pounds. I didn't think about the financial cost of having to replace my wardrobe because I figured the clothes were still going to fit. And you know why? Because somewhere in my mind, I didn't think that that was going to happen. We set this goal, but we don't really realistically think it's going to happen. We're doing the work. But then we sit there and we go, oh, well, no, it's not going to work. And then when it works, you're like, oh, snap. Now what? We didn't plan for the success. So now here it was. I lost 50 pounds. And I was like, I didn't anticipate this. So that's how my love for the GW, as I call it, Goodwill, came into play. Because I was like, I don't have the money to replace my whole wardrobe every time I lose weight. And if I'm doing well and I lose more, I'm going to have to get more clothes again. So what am I going to do? So, yeah, Goodwill became my friend and it still is. Now I'm obsessed. And, I'm going to admit that. Like I said, I call it the GW. And that's where I go to replace my wardrobe because I had to give away real talk 20 contractor bags full of clothes and shoes because no rotation was strong. Okay, your girl dressed. Okay, so I I had to figure out how to replace all of these clothes. And had to resize my jewelry. I had to get different size shoes. I went from a size 10. No, well, yeah, 10, 10 and a half to a size 9.5, nothing. So some of my shoes fit, some of them don't. Some shoes I still wear in a 10, some shoes I wear in a 9.5 now. and I had to get rid of, you know, things that I could no longer wear. And then I tried to figure out, well, what's my style? What am I doing? So that became a whole nother layer to this wellness process. And so, like I said, I was feeling good. I was looking good. I was still trying to understand this body that I was in and going to a section of clothing that I've never been in before. And so it was a big undertaking because now I'm sitting here like, okay, I'm doing this, I'm tracking my food, I'm eating these bars, and and now I'm at this weight that I've never been at before. So I didn't have a point of reference. Okay. Like I said, I had not been under 200 pounds since I was 17. So I didn't have a point of reference to go back to and say, oh, wow, back in the 80s when I was a fly girl, I looked like this and I want to go back to looking like this. I had not in my adult life been this size. So I didn't know what it looked like or what it was supposed to look like or where I wanted to stop. Right. So I kind of didn't have a goal. I just was like, I'm just going to kind of go down and see what I look like when I get there. And if I need to lose more, I'll lose more. And if I need to, stop and just maintain, then I'll do that. But I didn't have a point of reference. A lot of people, when they, lose weight, they go, well, I want to go back to the weight I was when I was in high school or whatever. I was closer to 300 pounds back then. So I didn't have that point of reference, you know? And even back when I was 17, I was like right under 200 pounds. And you know, I had the highest that I had gotten was almost 300 pounds. And that was during my teenage years while I was in high school. So I was a big girl. And so, I just didn't have that point of reference. And like I said, I had not been under 200 pounds since I was 17. And after that, like I said, I just soared. The scale just kept going up and up and up. And so, like I said, I had I had lost the 50 pounds that put me under 200 pounds. And now here I was, and I was like, okay, so now what do I want to do? And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm pleased with the progress, but now I started looking at long term. Okay, just like I said, I had to start looking at, I had to change my wardrobe. That was an added expense. And now the question started becoming for me. All right, so now I'm down here. I'm looking good, but does this mean that h- how does that work for me having to spend $400 a month for a box of packaged food? And so I started saying, okay, well, do I have to spend the rest of my life eating processed food? And then that became a question. And I was like, okay, wait a minute now. No, I don't want to be paying for this. And I was like, okay, so I started looking at, okay, so what is the long-term goal with Optavia as far as me eating this food? And I started researching some other things and was seeing that people were talking about fresh fruits and vegetables and things like that. Now you do have some meals that you eat along with the packaged food that you eat. You would eat that a certain time, certain times of the day, and then you would have a sensible meal. And so I was like, okay, well, I want to start moving away from the processed food, from the packaged food, and I want to start eating more of those fresh fruits and vegetables and things that I was eating, like, at the latter parts of each day. And so that became the next twist to this whole journey. And it was a twist of, okay, so now where do I go, with this, you know, processed food. I don't want to continue in that vein. And remember, I was saying that I wanted to make a lifestyle change, not just something that was going to be temporary. So Optavia provided a means to an end in me getting to a certain threshold. But I was like, okay, but is this sustainable for the rest of my life? Do I have to buy a box of food for the rest of my life? What if to be a, God forbid, goes out of business, or something happens and I can't afford to get that box of food. What am I going to do? So those questions started coming into my mind. So I had to now go into another phase. And I'm like, okay, so where do I go from here? And I talked with my girlfriend and I told her, this was a great opportunity. This was a wonderful one. I will never take anything away from that company. They did an excellent job in helping me get to where I needed to get to, but it was not going to be something for me personally that I was going to be able to sustain. So I had to start looking at, you know, adding more of those fresh fruits and vegetables and those sensible meals and making that something that was crossing over and replacing the processed food that I was eating. And so I said, okay, I need some more education on this. I need some more knowledge base on this because I don't know where to go from here. So, even though, my girlfriend was coaching me, she was my coach as I was going through that experience, that helped because she was able to answer some questions. But then it got to that place of sustainability with regards to, being on that program. And I said, okay, I need to be doing something different. So that became another paradigm shift. And I found a program that talked about holistic nutrition, and I was interested in that program. And so I enrolled in a program with AFPA, and that's a organization that does training for people who want to be holistic nutritionists and health coaches, and to do other programs of that nature. And so I enrolled in that program, and it took me 15 months to do the program, and I became a certified holistic nutritionist. It was an in-depth program. Some people say, oh, 15 months is not a long time. There were 6 textbooks that were involved. And let me tell you, the exam that you have to take in order to be a holistic nutritionist consisted of 390 questions. Let me tell you, when I went through the program and I'm reading the books and I'm going through the modules and I'm taking the quizzes as I'm going along, and I'm like, okay, this is great. I'm learning a lot of information. I learned so much about my body and what it does. I learned so many things. And then you get to the end, and I'm like, okay, it's gonna be like 100 question exam. I got this. And when that program said question one of 390, y'all, you should have seen my face. I'm sitting there looking at my finger, thinking that there's a little stain on the thing. I was like, oh, it's in 1 of 39. That can't be a zero at the end of there. It took me collectively about 15 hours to complete the exam. And you were able to go in, come out and go in, back and forth. Thank goodness. Because I was like, there's no way I could sit and take this exam at one time. So I was able to go in. So everywhere I went, every time I was stopping at a light, every time I was like, let me answer 5 more questions. So let me answer 10 more questions. It took me 15 hours total to take that exam. And I came out with a 94. I was excited about that. I'm a, you know, I'm egghead. I want to go and I want to get the information. And so, I pushed and read a lot, and became familiar with different ways of eating plant-based, eating vegan, all kinds of ways to go about eating, and it helped me in being able to tailor a program that worked for me. It helped me to understand that there's no one cookie cutter way to this wellness journey. It's as individual as the people who participate in it. And so, you know, I had some things that were different. Like I said, with my spinal stenosis, there were certain exercises and things that I couldn't do. So I learned about a whole new world of seated exercises. So I do a lot of strength training, and I do a lot of my exercises seated. I found a program, a few people that I follow on YouTube, and I do their programs, and it's a lot of seated exercises so that I'm not putting pressure on my spine. And so that's helped me. Being able to ride my recumbent bike has helped me. being able to monitor my food intake and to learn about protein and to learn about the importance of that and to learn about the importance of fiber and to learn about the importance of reading labels. It has helped me to get to a place of understanding with my body. Also, I learned about a program called Simple Fat Burn. And it was another young lady who I had met some years ago at a networking event. And I reached out to her and I started working with her program and got certified in her Simple Fat Burn program. And that's where we talked about, different things like crowding out, where you eat there may be something that you eat. Say you're going to an event and they're having cake or something like that, and you want to have a slice of cake because it's a party and you don't want to be sitting in the corner eating celery sticks and carrot sticks while everybody else is eating cake. Where you're drinking your water, you're eating properly, and then you're giving yourself an opportunity. You're eating everything else good around that, and then having that little piece of cake, not the whole cake, with the whipped cream on top and ice cream on the side, and then the drinks and everything else. I learned through the Simple Fat program how to eat properly, how to properly hydrate myself. So again, it became a labor of love and it became knowledge based because you want to get to a place in any aspect of your wellness journey, whether it's your physical, mental, or spiritual, you want to get to a place where it's sustainable. You want to get to that space where you say, okay, this is something that I can do. This is something that I understand. These are the tools that I need that are going to help me to be able to either maintain or to get to the next level of where I need to get. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that it doesn't come with setbacks. Okay, because while I started working on the Simple Fat Burn program, I lost an additional 14 pounds and had gotten down to losing 64 pounds total. Okay, everything was going great there, but then what happened was I had excess skin that happened as a result of my rapid weight loss. I had lost the weight in over a little under a year. And so I had this excess skin that was hanging. Okay. And that caused me to have a surgery to remove that skin. So I had a folliculectomy and an abdominoplasty in December of 2022, and they removed 8.5 pounds of excess skin off of my stomach, my lower stomach and abdomen. And what happened there is it caused a lot of water retention and swelling, a lot of lymph that was settling on my stomach. And, you know, it's still, I'm still in the process. It's been a year and a half since I had that surgery, a little over a year and a half since I had that surgery. And, still water retention, my age, the whole aspect of having being perimenopausal, all of those factors have come in and have been, part of the healing process. I was not a younger woman, so I had the surgery at 53 years old, well, 52. And so they said your body doesn't heal as quickly as a 30-year-old or someone who just had a child, so it was different for me. And then I've always had a large bust. I was an H cup. So 7 months ago, I had a breast reduction. So they took me from an H to a double D. And that took 3.5 pounds of excess skin off of my breast area. So all of these surgeries, plus the perimenopause, all of the water retention, all of these things has caused me to go on a bit of a roller coaster ride with regards to my weight because every time I ate something that was salt based, it just seems like I was swelling like no other. It was like somebody stuck a straw in my belly button and would blow my stomach up because I was experiencing something I had never experienced before, that to my knowledge, which was bloating. It's funny because people are like, oh, people bloat all the time. But when you're 300, 250, 300 pounds, you don't sit there and go, oh, I feel a little fatter today. I feel a little fluffier today. My clothes were tight because they always were tight. And so, this whole aspect, when I had that surgery, the first surgery, I would sit there for the first 2 weeks and I would watch my stomach swell and watch it go down. And I was fascinated. I had never experienced that before, ever, ever. So that was something new. The whole experience was something new. And I'm definitely going to do a part 2 because I want to talk about the surgeries and what that looked like. But for this particular show, just talking about the journey and going through those surgeries and going through the water retention. And one thing, that I want to talk about, as I start wrapping things up, is talking about, those setbacks because they come. They definitely come. Just when you think that you've mastered everything, and you do, and you have the knowledge, then it becomes a matter of choice, just like with anything else. So, I got to this place. I had been monitoring my food for 2 consecutive years, every day, writing down everything that I ate. Then at some point, I got tired of doing that. I was like, okay, I'm tired of writing it down today. I already know what I need to do. I know what that good nutrition looks like. So I stopped doing that. But sometimes you got to be careful in doing that. Every now and then you have to pick up and course correct, get back to where you know you need to be. And that's what happened. I fell off, and then you start getting a little careless with the eating. And then with the water retention that I was feeling and experiencing, I was scared to eat salty things. And so guess what happened? I started eating sweet things, thinking that that would counterbalance it. But that's when I really learned that sugar is addictive. Just like they say cocaine is a heck of a drug. Okay. Sugar. Okay. Sugar will do you in, my friends. Sugar will do you in. And I started to get addicted to the sugar again. And so my blood sugar started going up again a little bit. And I had to, again, course correct and say, okay, uh-oh, I'm going the wrong way. And started saying, okay, if I failed today or if I didn't do my best today, I need to get back on the stick the next day because, I don't want to go down that slippery slope. And so there's a whole lot of dynamics that went along with this journey, and it's still not over. I've managed to maintain the 64 pounds, but there's still a little bit more that I need to do because there's a little 10 pound, 15 pound fluctuation that happens in there, as you're going along. But I'm not quite at my goal yet, but I'm not terribly far from it. I see it in the distance there. And so I want to get to a place where I have a little give and take. I've gotten to a place where I'm learning that, events and things that happen in my life are about the fun and the family, and my focus is no longer on the food. And so, like I said, there's definitely going to be a part 2 to this because I want to talk about the surgeries that I went through. I want to talk about um, you know, the process. I want to talk about a sugar fast that I've gone on and I've currently been in, and the changes that I'm seeing as a result of that. And so, there's definitely, like I said, going to be a part 2 to this wellness journey. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this because as a woman who is over 50, as a woman who has struggled with my weight for the better part of my adult life, there are a lot of things that went along with this. I wanted to talk about the tools that I've used to get me to the point that I'm at now, some additional tools that I need to add or that I have added since then, and and to talk about the whole process, to talk about weight loss medications and my experience with that. And so there's a little bit more to this story that I want to tell that there's more to it than meets the eye. And I definitely want to share my perspective, as a wellness coach and just as an individual who who is living life. Life is lifing. I'm now 54 years old. I'm going to be coming up on double nickels next year. And so, there are things that I want to talk about. The realness of this wellness experience, the realness of this weight loss journey, what it looks like, what I've learned and things that I still need to learn, and how it's going to be tailored to the individual, because like I said, it's just as individual as we are. And so like I said, I just wanted to share a bit of that journey with you. Like I said, there's definitely going to be a part two, so stay tuned for that, where I'm going to be talking about, weight loss drugs. I'm going to be talking about, the surgeries and what that looked like, and what my experience has been with that. And, just that you can kind of walk alongside me, because some of you may have experienced some of the same things that I've experienced. And it's definitely a mental, physical, and spiritual journey, and I want us to be able to get to a place where we're responding to the things that are happening within our bodies, and not reacting to the things that may happen negatively as a result of us not knowing. We want to be able to do things from a place of wisdom. We want to be able to respond from a place of wisdom, and we can't do that if we don't know. That's why I create a platform like this, like How Now, because I want us to be in a space where we're able to be exposed to things that we typically are not exposed to, and to see how people respond to them, you know? Because the my goal is for us to create a peaceful existence. And that is my acronym for HOPE: create our peaceful existence. How do we do that? How do we get to a place of responding to the things that are going on around us, and not being so reactionary and causing stress and strife in our life, when the tools that we need can be provided, or can be placed or put in a place where we can access them when we need them. Okay, so like I said, stay tuned for part two of this wellness journey. And know that I'm here. The show is here. We're always here creating platforms so that way we can be the best version of ourselves that we can be. And with that, I will say thank you for joining me for this edition of the How Now podcast. And until I see you all the next time, I might say